Hello and welcome to Our Amplified Life. Rebecca and I are here back with a conversation today because it's the end of the season, the end of a calendar year, and we always like to reflect on what we have been through, the joys, the hardships, and also set new goals, set new expectations for the new upcoming year. Now, I know that Rebecca and I have talked in the past, and I'm not one to do a New Year's resolution because those things change. But what we do, I think both prefer, is really just to set some expectations for ourselves to kind of get us off on the right foot. And often we've talked about our word of the year. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit this season. We would love for you to comment what your word of the year is. So make sure you leave that in the comments, and you could even tell us why it's important to you. But we're hoping that this will maybe stimulate your brain into thinking how your year is going to pan out and what are the exciting things to come up. So Rebecca, why don't you kick us off? You're always much more intentional in December about your word than I am. Mine always seems to take a little bit longer for me to land on. So why don't you kick us off?
Well, and I think for me, I start out with just thinking about how do I want to feel this time next year? What is going to make me feel like I have accomplished something? And how do I form that feeling into a word? And so as I was thinking about this year, I just thought, I want it to be something around finishing, because I feel like I've got a fairly creative brain and I like lots of different things, which means I run around and I get lots of things started. Like there's lots of different things around the house that I could look at right now. Like, okay, so behind me is a yellow wall and in front of me in the same room is a gray wall. That's something that I could probably complete, right? So, I decided that I wanted it to be something along finish. And as I was digging into, different words that are synonymous with that, I ran across a Greek word that is teleo. And I thought, okay. And then when I started digging into that, it means complete, finish, fulfill. Thought, well,
Yeah.
that sounds like exactly what I need in my life and my focus for the year. So that is my word of the year, teleo. And I am starting a list of all the things, all the little projects that need to be brought from 95% to 100% completion. And I can't wait to end the year with those things checked off. And I have made a pact with myself that I am not starting new projects until these get finished. Now, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to 100% fulfill that, but at least the thought process is there, right?
So it's funny how right when we start talking about these and hearing you explain, all of a sudden words and meanings kind of come into my brain. I love that for you. I love that you found the Greek meaning and that it really does mean completion, because also, if you guys haven't tuned in, a couple weeks ago, we posted a conversation and it was very emotional for Rebecca. And she really talked about a new light in her life and having this goal of showing her horse. So I feel, I don't know the Greek word, but completion or finishing just seems really relevant to you. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
But as you were talking, um, the last couple of years for me have been about harmony and balance and renewal. And I feel like I've moved on from a few of the hard, like it's still there and we're still working at it. But Thrive started to come to my mind when you were talking about it. So I hurried, and you guys probably saw my head down. I was looking up the definition of thrive, and flourish came up. And I'm loving that. I think that I might just land on flourish. I'm going to take a couple days to kind of sit with it and see how I feel, because I do think that it needs to be a prayerful conversation with myself. And but just sitting here, I really am loving that word flourish because I think it can be very all encompassing within your personal life, your business life. I have a new grandbaby coming. So really I am kind of excited about that. So I think I'm landing on flourish. And it's really amazing how when you put intention and just thought, and not to say that I didn't have a word, but I've been thinking about it because I knew we were having this conversation, and I told Rebecca before we started, I'm like, I don't have my word again, and she's like, let's just talk through it. So it's amazing what happens when you actually have someone to kind of bounce things off, especially someone that knows you well, because find a buddy, find your friend, find someone from book club, find somebody from your church, find someone that you would consider a confidant and like talk about it. Maybe neither one of you have ever found a word of the year, but I don't know if you guys can see on my door. The last couple of years, I've been buying these street signs for Rebecca and I. And so they're just a really good reminder of the words that I have. And I actually have one going above the other. And that's very intentional because I feel like each word kind of grows into the next, and your life really does follow the path that you set forward. And so a word, as simple as it seems, it's just something in those hard times that you can be like, okay, I'm flourishing today. This is a hard, but I'm going to flourish.
Yeah, that intentionality with it just spills into every facet of life. I feel like, even your calendar and your day, when you sit down and you're planning and mapping out your week and then your day, just the intentionality of making the choices to get you to where you want to go rather than just allowing life to happen to you. Because I feel like there's been many times where life has just happened to me because I've been woefully unprepared. I haven't planned, I haven't directed the way I needed to make things go. And so intentionality is huge. And even if you don't necessarily set goals or a word of the year, just having that intentionality of being able to sit this time next year and be very happy with where you're at because you've been intentional with the direction you want your life to go.
Well, and I want to talk to the ladies that are like, I am not a planner. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. Um, because I'm kind of both. I'm a hot mess of, I need a scheduled life. I don't love it. Sometimes I fight against it. However, I don't get anything done if I'm not scheduled. I tend to just, and I think it's good too, to just kind of have those days where you just want to do nothing. But then I feel so much more stressed. And what Rebecca was talking about, I actually had this conversation with my 24-year-old just the other night because he works really long days in the labor industry. He's in the HVAC industry. And his whole life right now is the gym, like nutrition and gym. And he gets home at 11 o'clock at night. So wherever his job takes him, he goes to the gym right after, and he meal preps and all these things, but he's lacking personal relationships. And I said to him, I said, Wade, we all have the same 24 hours. It doesn't matter how successful a person is, how busy a person is, a stay-at-home mom to a corporate executive, they all have the same 24 hours. And I think the thing with women in particular is we have this saying that we're too busy. I can't, I'm too busy. Now, although that might be legitimate and we all feel that way, if we will actually be intentional about calling our girlfriend and putting a coffee date on the calendar, or like Rebecca and I schedule our video times out. And you know what? If we didn't do that, we would just never have these videos. And we've been successful doing them for 4 years. And it's such a great thing to see her face and to talk to her. Then when we do get 5 seconds to call on the phone, we can just pick up, right back where we're at. But I notice the people that are the most lonely, I guess, or isolated might be a better word, are also the ones that are not intentional about setting that time aside. So I was telling my son, I'm like, look, I know the gym is your priority, but if you want a social life, if you want a dating life, you are going to have to look at your 12 hours in the day, 16 hours, whatever you're giving yourself in the day, and you're going to have to make some adjustments because yes, you might have a day where you're working 11 hours and then you might have to adjust the gym from 2 hours to one, or you may have to just count it as a rest day because you've already planned a date with somebody. And it's really important that we do that because otherwise time just is gone. And, I'm so grateful for my cabbie business for that reason, because I do feel that us scheduling a day with a hostess can be that one intentional date of the month that a girl gets invited to, that a woman that you love feels included. And so it's all encompassing, but that's why I think these conversations are important, because maybe Rebecca and I are talking about things that you guys have thought about and you're like, yeah, I don't have the time. I'm tired all the time or whatever, but I can tell you it does make a difference.
Yeah, but it does big time. And I can totally relate to resisting against the planning piece because that's totally me. My brain wants to resist against setting anything in stone. And yet, because of the chaos of life, I have to if I want to be intentional. And
Yeah.
so something that I do is I am very regimented on things during the week. That's kind of my planning, and I have things planned out. But on the weekends, I just flow. And so that kind of gives me a bit of a balance between being structured and scheduled and being carefree and, going with the flow. And it seems to work really well for me.
Yeah. And I am not one that can schedule like every 15 minutes. Like I'm more of a
Mhm.
block person. Like in the
Mhm.
mornings, I know I'm going to work out. I know I'm going to have my breakfast. I know there's things I need to do around the house. And I give myself till like 11 o'clock, like to get all of the things I need to do to be done. And there's some flexibility in there. And then I know my office hours are generally from 11 to 1 because I have those good solid 3 hours before I have to leave and go get my daughter and run her around. And so mine is more like on Mondays, I know this is my block of time. I know this is my block of time on Tuesdays. I cannot be that strictly regimented or I will seriously freak out. However, that being said, I know I can schedule a day out with a girlfriend, or I can schedule a hike, or I can schedule, and then on Saturdays and Sundays, Rebecca is very like in the flow of things. I know for me, Saturdays and Sundays are kind of like my absolute family time. And so although I am busy on Saturdays, it's generally with my daughter or we'll go do things. But Sundays, it's a very rare occasion that I will go outside of my family.
Yeah.
And it has to be something special. I just went to my friend's church on a Sunday evening service, and I had that blocked out for 3 weeks. And I just knew that that was something that I wanted to participate in. It was totally out of my box because my church is in the mornings and I love my Sunday evenings. But I was so excited to come home and get all dressed back up and go be with some really cool people for the evening. And so I do think if you're not a schedule person, find some blocks of time of things that are your priorities and just make them non-negotiable. Then everything else can just be like whatever. But I mean, I just think it's so important to set some time aside. And it's hard. And my son kept arguing. He's like, Mom, there's no such thing as balance. And I said, you're right. There's not. But when you're doing one thing, you can give it your all. And if you schedule some things, you will feel a little more balanced because you're not trying to multitask every part of your life.
Yeah.
So,
That's just the thing. It feels a little bit strange to schedule appointments with your friends to have lunch or to coffee but before I started doing that, then it just doesn't happen. If it doesn't get scheduled, it does not happen in my life. And so that's been just really eye-opening for me, and knowing that that's important, then it gets put on the calendar because then it happens. Otherwise, you see somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, we should get together. Well, if you don't set something up, in 2 months when you see them, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, we totally need to get together. And it's just this cycle that keeps on going. So
Let's talk about framework, because I think you just brought up a really good point. If you have any friends that are smart Alex, or you've known each other your entire life, you might say, hey, let's put something on the calendar, and they could respond to you going, oh yeah, I'm so important, you know, I have to be penciled in. I've had that response. And so for me, I started to reframe and the way I thought about it. And my response to them was, well, actually, you're so important to me. I want to make sure that when I'm with you, I am completely there. And so I would love to, like, let's just plan a date. If it's on my calendar, I am not going to back out. I am there 100%. And then they're like, oh, okay. And you know what? They may not schedule their lives like we have to. And so if you can reframe those words for that person that might take offense to you, which is so weird for me now because I've been doing this and I know where my heart is, but excuse me, I have had that response in my life when they're like, oh, sure, you got to schedule me, you know? Well, it's because you're a priority. It's because I love you and I want to be all there. I don't want it to be fly by the seat of my pants and then have my husband call or my kids and have to leave. And so I can make arrangements in advance. I can be 100% there. I can put my phone away and I can just be in the moment. And so a challenge that I gave myself a couple years ago was really to reframe some of those ingrained thoughts of the process of scheduling, because I'm a rebel at heart. I will push against that a little bit.
yeah, I fully appreciate that. Okay. You want to talk about a few goals for 2024?
Why don't you kick us off? I like, for me, my goals seem to repeat every 6 months, and it is the nature of our business, right? We do a season and then halfway through the year we're doing another season, which I completely love that it's not a year-long goal because it allows me to take a breath and see how that goes. So I guess for my goals, I always want them to be reachable, but also adaptable. And so I'll give you three. I'm going to go personal, business, and just family. How's that?
Okay.
So, um, my personal goals are to thrive. And for that, it's to continue my workouts. I feel like my head is so clear. That has been a priority for a long time. I'm not worried about weight loss or anything. I fluctuate 10 pounds all the time. It's more about consistency. And my daughter works out with me, and I think it's a great thing. So I want to continue to thrive in that. So that goal has not changed. It's going to be there. And I love that part of it. My goal for my business is that I really want to, I'm going to actually throw a number out because we need to make it real. So I want to be able to hit 100,000 in sales by June, which, if you're not familiar with our business, it's not an easy task. It is literally something that I have to schedule my calendar, make sure my bookings are there, do the follow-up that's important. But the number one thing doing that is it really is about serving women with my whole heart. This isn't, when I say it, it's hard for me to use the word sales in there because I feel like it takes the relationship away, but my relationships always come first. I will never push someone into buying something retail if they have a hostess benefit or if they, you know, so I just want to put that into context a little bit. I would love to bring 2 women into this business and raise them and train them as a stylist, because I've done it. I've led someone really, really well. And I would love to lead someone maybe to a business that will give them the opportunity to adapt their schedule, have more family life, right? Because it's worked for you and I. So my goal is 2 women. So that's my business, 100,000, 2 new stylists brought into the business. And then on my family life, I think that's been the hardest the last couple of years. If you guys have seen any of our conversations over time, for me, I really want to focus on the positive. I want to be a wonderful mother-in-law and grandma where boundaries are honored. And I just want it to be a welcomed environment. If they want to bring the baby, they need to feel spoiled and loved on. But I want to make sure that I am keeping myself in check so that my daughter-in-law's boundaries are honored and that she just feels love when she's here. And that takes intention. I can tell you 100 times over, it's so much easier to want to just blurt things out. Luckily, I love my daughter-in-law more than anything in the world. So it's really easy to just be like, she's amazing. She is. It's more my issue of I'm fairly strong-willed and I know I have some pretty strong opinions. So I want to keep myself in check. And I'm just really excited for this grandbaby to come. I want Breely to thrive. She has a goal of being a cheerleader in high school. I can't believe she's going to be in high school in the fall. So, you know, family, I need to schedule. I really need to schedule so that my family continues to be my number one priority. And I save that for my last goal because although it's my number one priority, my family's not going to fit if my other goals if I don't schedule my other goals right. So it is that balance of trying to figure out where your priorities are, where your time lies, and how it's all going to work. And I really feel like these conversations help me go into each season because my life does change every 6 months. My scheduling changes every 6 months. July, we're scheduling for August, and that's when Breely's going to start high school. And if she is a cheerleader, my scheduling days are even going to be different. So I'm so grateful that we get to do this every 6 months rather than once a year, because it really helps me just go, okay, it's okay that things have changed. It's okay that this is coming up. I'm not going to freak out. We're just going to go with it. And I'm going to have a little more flexibility when she cheers than when I have right now. So it's a challenge, but those are my long-winded 3 goals.
Well, I think it's just awesome that you were able to tell us your goals when you initially, the first word out of your mouth was, well, you go first. And then here you go. You've got your 3 right there and holy smokes. So isn't it funny?
Yeah. I love talking with you. That's why you're a great sounding board.
I love it. Okay. So for me, my spring is going to look a lot different than I had originally, 2 months ago, 1 month ago, what I was thinking. So if you missed our conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago, you'll want to go back because I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm carving out time to ride and then get to some shows. So I'm praying and believing that I'm going to physically be able to do it. So I'm just scheduling that in. So because I'm scheduling a few other things in, then I have reevaluated some of my sales goals, which for me, sales equals service. And I know that you feel the same way, Amy. So when we talk about sales, we're talking about serving women. And so as far as my Cabby sales goals for the next 6 months, it's 50,000. And I feel like that's going to be doable working in all of the other things that I've got going on this spring. I'm going to have mouth surgery after the first of the year, and I'm a little bit worried about that. And then I'm going to have braces. Oh, but why not have at almost 50 have braces on your teeth, right? I have a baby tooth that has decided to get wiggly finally after many, many decades in my mouth. And now it's going to have to come out, and I've got to have braces to help pull everything into alignment. So I need some prayers on that because I am not a fan of dentists anyway. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I've got braces on my goal list, which is not necessarily a goal of mine, but I do need to create.
Braces bring completion. So once they're done, you can totally check that off and it will be long done.
There you go. I'm there for it. So getting this colt shown, and then we've got a 2-year-old stud colt here that is really, really nice that I want it to. So one of mine and a customer is kind of going to be my focus for 2024, and prayers that all happens. But then to make that happen, continue to work out daily and stretch daily like I have. I will tell you, this whole stretching at night before I go to bed is absolutely life-changing. So again, I talked a little bit more about this app there, but Fit On is the app. And if you want to do nothing else than a stretching routine before you go to bed at night, I highly recommend it because I am able to go to sleep a lot better than I have for years. So those are just a few personal / business things. I have tripled my production for the hanging baskets and bedding plants. I will have over 750 hanging baskets that I produced this spring, and lots of bedding plants along with that. So that's exciting. And then continuing this YouTube journey with Amy is something that's a high priority for me. I absolutely love these videos. You guys know that I've kind of stepped away from my other social media accounts, and I'm going to slowly start. You're not going to see me jump right back in and be posting every day like I used to, but I'm going to start being purposeful about posting on my social media channels at least once a week. That's what I've got written down. And then we'll just see from there. And then Amy, can we spill the beans on the other project that we're working on?
I don't know if we want to fully spill the beans because we don't have a time frame, but maybe we should set a goal for that and just let them know there is something kind of new in the works, maybe that I mean, it's up to you. Maybe we could get some feedback on ideas. I mean, I don't care. Spill the beans or not.
Well, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. By the end of 2024, Amy and I will have a podcast for you. And we feel so blessed to know incredible individuals that we do life with, that we feel their stories would bless you and inspire you. And so we are going to embark on this journey together. So
I love that time frame because we're hoping it's sooner. We want to do it right and we want to launch it right. And it's going to be a lifestyle podcast. So it's not necessarily going to be a duplicate of what you see here. This is all about fashion and cabbie and a few little snippets into our lives. But the podcast, we really want to bring guests on, as Rebecca said, that have a story to tell. And who knows, we may be inviting you because some of our guests are absolutely going to be brought in from our potluck of cabbie hostesses, cabbie clients, people that we've connected to that have really cool life stories. And so that's going to be a big project for us to launch and to schedule and to make sure. So ladies out there, start scheduling your lives a little bit so that when we call, you can pencil us in and be a part of the podcast because we're really excited about it. And we just have some things to do before we're ready to go. And it could take us a couple of months to kind of feel like, okay, now we got a plan for it. So it's a long-term goal. But I'm so excited because as you were talking, I'm like, ooh, we should tell.
Yeah. But there's a lot of behind the scene things that have to go along, and Amy and I have to get all of the back channel stuff figured out on the podcast. So
like we don't want to just jump into it. And I mean, obviously it's going to be a learn as you go. Anything that you do like this is learn as you go, but we want to be somewhat prepared and professional because our personalities come out no matter what. And my personal belief is if we're prepared and we know at least what we're doing, then it will actually allow our personalities to come out a little bit better. And you guys will really have a better experience. But we really want to bring you into that. I think we should also let our audience know that we do upload these videos onto Rumble as well. Some people are just not as comfortable with YouTube these days. And so we're trying to grow where we're putting things just so that you have more options. And so Rumble is something we did like 3 or 4 months ago. Not all the videos are there, but most of them are. So we just really want to bring you into our lives as much as possible. So there's a lot happening between now and December 2024.
There's a lot happening between now and the end of June.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
it's a
Guess
little
what?
mind blowing.
I get to see you in just a couple weeks. So I think we should also, because by the time you guys watch this, you will probably already know. If you are a local client nearby, um, you may get to see the collection before
Before it
fashion.
officially launches.
Yes. So if you're our client, you may or may not have received an email by now. We have to keep it a little bit on the down low, but if you got it, you probably know about it. If you don't, comment, we can send you a message and just let you know. But it's going to be really fun. It's a great launch. I'm excited for all the hot pink because I love a hot pink. But I really think there's a lot to come. And I was thinking about this the other day. You have to shut the world out a little bit. You still have to live. And it's so easy to go, oh my gosh, the economy's tanking. The world is gonna crash. I can't do anything that I used to want to do. And I think that's wrong. I think if there are things that you really want and like and are a priority for you, it just takes a little planning, like we've been talking about. And I have mentioned to Rebecca, I mentioned it on a last video that I cut up all my credit cards 6 months ago. And I am running my business on a cash only basis. I'm doing other things on a cash only basis. And so if you think you can't afford Cabby or some hobbies that you have because the economy's hard, just start planning and setting aside. And it only takes a few months of like really being intentional, and then you can flourish and you can complete your goals. So you can still get your Cabby. You can still get the things that you want, even though it's a little harder. But you know what? That's the reason that we have options. You can host, you can refer shows, you can be our sample sale girls. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And we are just so excited to serve you through fashion, through your life. And it's just really cool. I'm really excited for all that's happening. So shut the news out, shut all the things, maybe be attuned to it, keep it so you are aware of what's happening, but focus on the good. And it's amazing what happens when you cut some of that negative and the toxic out, how much more good you see and how much better you feel. And so, I mean, I think that's all I really have. Rebecca, why don't you finish up and take us out?
Well, I think that all of what you just said, I second absolutely. If you are finding yourself hard to find the good in the world right now, I recommend getting back to journaling gratitude. And that's something that I do off and on. If I feel myself getting into a depression or, just not a funk of some sort, I grab out some paper and I start writing what I am thankful for. And when you start focusing on the blessings that are in your life, then it changes your complete outlook. So that's just, I guess, one thing that I will leave you with. The other thing is 64% of you watching this have not subscribed yet. So please hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and it helps us so much. And like this video if it helped you in any way. Share us with your friends. If you love what we're doing, hit the little bell and select all so that you get notified every Friday when these go live. And we just, again, thank you so much for being here with us. Let us know what your intention for 2024 is, what your word of the year is. We can't wait to hear all the things. And until next week, stay stylish, ladies.